Welcome to another Rolled in Reacts episode. This customer came in complaining about a vibration and heavy steering wheel after they had done an alignment and tire rotation at a different shop the weekend before. And the owner of this car had tuned up their exhaust system a bit because they wanted their car to sound unique. Customer came in saying, "Heard this loud metallic noise, and then the car felt a bit different. Could you make sure it's nothing serious?" Customer came in saying that their little cousin had helped them do a yearly service on their car, but that there was some minor trouble in tightening the air filter box and that the car has not felt the same ever since. This customer rolled in saying, "Car's been running rough lately, but I do all my own oil changes and I do them on time, so I'm not sure what it could be." Customer states, "I've had a small tire leak since last Friday when I hit a curbside a bit harder than what I normally do. Please check and advise." And this car came in on a tow truck after the owner heard a loud boink sound when he was going to pass another car on the highway. The owner of this car came in saying, "Friend of mine said he'd easily be able to squeeze an extra 30 horsepower out of my car, so I let him tune it, but now it's even slower than before." This car came in after the owner had hit a light post when driving home from work. Turns out that he had been to the shop a week prior and was told that he needed to install new brake pads, which he then refused. The owner of this truck was on his way home from work when his rear wheels just locked up on him. Turned out that the differential gears were pretty much bone dry, which had caused the diff to blow up. Customer states, "Hit a chipmunk on my way to the grocery store. Please check and advise." And this customer had painted his engine bay all by himself. And if your oil comes out looking like this, you're probably in some expensive trouble. This car came in because the customer said their turbo had started sounding like and the owner of this car had installed some new extra lights, all by themselves, but had to come in because the car wouldn't start anymore. And this is why you should never use any tools with sharp edges to tighten your oil filter. Customer states, "I do all my own oil changes, but after the last one, the car's been acting kind of funny. Turned out that the engine was overfilled by 13 quarts of oil." The owner of this car had a long-time dream to go camping with his car, so he had equipped it with some cooking gear all by himself and wanted the mechanic to make sure the installation would pass a safety inspection. This customer was apparently in the shop a week prior for an exhaust leak, but declined all repairs, saying that her brother is so good with cars that he will fix it. But they still had to come in to get a new exhaust installed. This customer came in with their Saturn saying that they had a clunking sound for a while, but that they had fixed it themselves and wanted the mechanics to make sure it looked alright. This customer had changed their air filter at another shop, but they had accidentally dropped a nut in the airbox that made its way into the engine. And this, folks, is why you should be extra careful letting quick fix repair shops work on your car. And this customer had fixed a rattling noise all by themselves using some silicone, but had to come in because the noise had gotten even louder. Customer states, "I am a self-taught electrician. Please help." The owner of this car had just bought it at an auction, but hit a curb on his way home and had to come in to have it looked at. And the owner of this Lamborghini had done his own oil change on it, but ended up overfilling it by 35 quarts. The mechanic said that the customer doesn't even deserve to own a Fiat, tops a bicycle. And this customer came in with his truck for an oil change and said that he takes great care of his truck and always keeps it parked in a heated garage. It definitely adds that extra earthy, ethereal smell to your driver's cab. The owner of this Audi A3 came in saying that their transmission has started to make strange sounds and sometimes wouldn't go into gear after they had modified it at another shop 10 days ago. This customer came in with their project car asking the mechanic to list the things needed to be repaired. The mechanic recommended the customer to get a new project car instead. The owner of this car had trouble rolling down the windows after their friend had installed some new speakers for them. Customer came in with a whining differential after they had been towing a trailer full of oversized gummy bears filled with sand for a local beach party. This customer had installed some new wheels and spacers, all by himself, but had to come in because now his steering wheel is wobbling hella bad. Yeah, all good. And this guy had replaced his own head gasket using a YouTube tutorial, but had to come in 2 weeks later because the car felt sluggish and the engine temperature was higher than normal. The owner of this car had gone drifting with their car on a frozen lake and had been revving it in second gear for a bit longer than what they should have. And the owner of this car said that their uncle had just helped them install new CV axles, but that they now have a strange rattling sound when driving. Customer states, need new car battery, old one doesn't want to charge anymore. Turned out to be a bust alternator. And this guy wanted some larger rims on his truck, so he installed some spacers by himself, but he had to come in 3 days later because of a wobbly steering wheel. And this car came in with an exhaust leak and loud noises during acceleration after the customer had built and installed their own muffler. And the owner of this Subaru came in saying that it had started to handle like a boat full of watermelons after their friend had done some frame and suspension work for them. And this customer rolled in because they had a clunking sound when turning after they recently had outer tie rod ends installed at another shop. Turns out they were barely even installed. This car rolled in like this after the owner said it had started to handle a bit higgledy-wiggledy. This car was in because it had a rattling sound coming from the engine. And this customer had done some framework on their Toyota 4Runner together with a friend, but had to come in because they said that it now feels like the body will slide off the chassis whenever they make sharp turns. This customer came in saying that their car has started to run really hot lately and asked the mechanics to have a look. This customer had done some work on their brake calipers, but couldn't figure out why their brake pedal now feels like a marshmallow. This Chevy Silverado came in because the 4-wheel drive had stopped working after the owner had taken it on a hunting trip to the mountains and thinks he might have hit a rock or two on the way. The owner of this car hadn't had their brakes checked since buying it new 8 years ago and finally had to come in because they almost didn't have any brakes left. This car came in on a tow truck because it wouldn't start. I wonder why. This guy came in with his car asking for some new brake pads and that the mechanic would spare him any BS about his calipers and rotors looking like this or like that, because he's heard it all before. The owner of this Nissan was in for an exhaust leak when the mechanic noticed that the tires were pretty well used. When told about it, the customer just replied, "You might not enjoy walking on thin ice, but I do." And this car came in with a bit of a leak after the customer had jacked it up in his very own way to do some brake work. This customer's Dodge was in for an engine replacement when the mechanics noticed that the shop's intern had a little mishap happen when they were helping to unload the engine from the delivery van. Customer states, "Yeah, I do my own oil changes every 13 months or so. Why do you ask?" And the owner of this Lexus came in saying that they smell burnt wood whenever they drive on the highway. This car last had an oil change at the factory where it was built and had to come in because the stock oil filter had literally started to fall apart, causing the engine light to turn on. And this car couldn't have come in any sooner for some timing chain and tensioner work. Customer states, "Did some suspension work together with my brother, but now car clunks hella bad." This customer had done some suspension work on their Infiniti, but had to come in because they said that it now handles like a cup of wet noodles on wheels. This truck came in for a post-purchase inspection after the owner had paid over $10,000 for it. This pickup truck came in because it needed some body work. When asked about what had happened, the customer said, "I stole a parking spot from a guy that I'd been waiting for for ages, and he got a little upset with me at first, until I showed him mine and he just took off like Bugs Bunny." And this Audi engine came in with quite the list of problems. One of these is unlike the other. Can you guess which one it is? This customer's Mini Cooper had an oil change at a quick lube shop, but 2 days later it couldn't start. Turned out that the other shop had broken the dipstick and it had somehow managed to dislodge the timing chain, which caused some major engine damage. Thankfully, the customer's insurance covered the costs for a new engine. This car came in on a tow truck after the customer said that she had lost all keys to it and wanted new ones programmed, but it only took the mechanic about 5 minutes to fix the problem. Customerstates, was racing a friend of mine when I heard a loud pop and then the car stopped. The owner of this Mercedes G-Class came in saying they have a clattering sound that's gradually gotten worse over the past couple of weeks. Turns out that somebody that likes honey roasted nuts had moved into the car and kept a little stash inside one of the doors. This customer had done their very first oil and filter change but had to come in because of an oil leak after they had missed to remove the plastic cover on the oil filter. Customer states, funky smell in driver's cab. Could have been a lot worse. Customer states, a friend of a friend installed a new oil pan gasket, but car now leaks more oil than it did before. Please check and advise. And this car came in with a transmission noise right around the holiday season, and the mechanic found the transmission fluid to be all decked out and ready for Santa. The owner of this Honda Pilot came in saying that they have been getting this strange thumping sound whenever they go over speed bumps or pull into their driveway. This customer had recently been to a quick lube shop for an oil change, but had to come in because they now had a slight ticking noise. This car rolled in with tires looking like this. Thankfully, the customer agreed to having new ones installed. The owner of this car came in complaining about a steering wheel vibration after her father-in-law had helped her with a seasonal tire swap. The owner of this car came in with steering issues after their brother had tried doing some work on it but ended up causing more trouble than good. Hey, if it works, it works. The owner of this car had done an oil and filter change by himself, but came in complaining about the car now feeling sluggish when accelerating. And this car rolled in with a handful of issues after the customer had a couple of beers with the boys while they were working on each other's cars. This truck had some brake work done by the owner's uncle, but it had to come in because the brake pedal now goes to the floor and the truck is hard to stop. How you know that you're overdue on your radiator replacement. And this customer fixed a leaking tire by themselves, but had to come into the shop to get a new tire 4 days after this was filmed. This customer said that they had tried fixing their squeaky brakes with some brake quiet, but that the squeak had only gotten worse since. And the owner of this car had installed their very own battery charger, but had to come in on a tow truck because the car wouldn't start. And this pickup truck came in on a tow truck because it didn't want to go into driver reverse, after the customer said he hit what looked like an oversized hockey puck on his way to the grocery store. And the owner of this car had installed a new touchscreen radio in a pretty creative way. Here's your problem, sir. And apparently, someone had accidentally dropped a socket wrench inside this engine while working on it. Customer states, was in an accident with his truck and his cousin, Jerry, helped him with some bodywork, but said that he ain't all that happy with it and wants us to have a look. This car rolled in because it needed a new water pump, but the customer didn't mention that the last person to replace their timing belt was George Washington. The owner of this BMW came in saying that their brakes only work sometimes, after they had some work done at a different shop. Turns out that the other shop had used the wrong type of pads and rotors for this specific model. The owner of this car had changed his oil regularly, but hadn't changed the oil filter in 80,000 miles. And this customer had to come in because their truck wouldn't start anymore after they had gone mud racing with it and accidentally ended up getting stuck in a deep puddle. This vehicle came in after the owner had a horrible grinding sound when braking that gradually had become worse the past 6 months. This customer had done some brake work on his Tundra all by himself, but was in because his brake pedal now went to the floor. This SUV came in after the owner had been doing some off-roading and was on his way home on the highway when he suddenly heard a loud bang. Turns out that the drive shaft had broken off and got swung up into the undercarriage and severely damaged the transmission. The owner of this car had it in because they had started hearing a hissing sound from behind the dash, and this is what the mechanics found. Thankfully, the snake was alive and well and was taken to an animal shelter where it eventually found its way back to its owner. Customer came in saying that they do all their own work and that their car runs so smooth you can't even hear the engine from inside the driver's cab. This customer had purchased this truck from a neighbor and parked it on his lawn for a couple of years before deciding to start working on it, but discovered this once he had it on the lift. And the owner of this vehicle had replaced the spark plugs by himself, but now his car has a misfire and barely idles. Looks like he must have missed something. And this customer came in saying that ever since they hit a curbside last week while going to work, their car has felt kinda strange. This truck came in for an exhaust leak after the customer had DIY'd their own exhaust system. The owner of this car came in saying, "My car feels slower than normal and I keep hearing these water sounds whenever I turn." This truck came in for an inspection after the customer had some rattling sounds while driving, and this is what the technician found. And this car came in with a pretty decent oil leak after they had done an oil change at a quick lube shop that apparently forgot to tighten the oil filter properly. This customer was in at this shop 2 weeks prior and got a price quote for some brake work, which they thought was too expensive, so they did the work themselves, but they ended up having to come back because they now have a bad vibration when braking. Customer states, "Car doesn't want to stop anymore, please advise." And the owner of this truck didn't think his AC was cool enough, so he installed another one by himself. Customer came in saying that they can't remember last time they had an oil change, but it wasn't that long ago. Time flies, I guess? This customer came in saying that they were speeding to get to work on time when they suddenly heard a loud pop and the engine started sounding strange. Turns out that the customer needed a new expansion tank. This customer came in saying they need a new center console storage cubby because the one they have won't close. And this customer couldn't figure out how to keep their window rolled up. Customer states, "Truck runs a bit rough and has started to overheat. Please advise." And the owner of this car had installed some new brake hoses, all by themselves, but had to come in 3 days later because they now didn't have any brakes at all. This car came in with starting issues and quite the leak. Turned out that the car's battery had some suspicious holes in it, which caused a leak so strong it had started to corrode parts of the transpan. This car was in because the customer complained about a strange rattling sound at higher speeds after they got their engine bay cleaned by a remote car washing company. Turned out to be the battery cover that had gone on a little adventure. The owner of this Honda came in for an oil change when the mechanic noticed the condition of the tires. When told about it, the customer insisted on only getting the oil change. And this car came in with some brake issues after the customer had some work done at a different shop. Turns out that the customer hadn't replaced the rotors since the car was new, a couple caliper bolts were mysteriously missing, and the car had quite the oil leak because of a broken brake line. And this customer's truck got towed in because one of the front wheel bearings had failed after the owner and his friend had installed a used one to save some cash. Customerstates had a dunking sound and their brother fixed it with some petroleum jelly, but now the sound is back. The owner of this car had installed some new brake pads by himself, but had to come in because he now has a terrible squeak. And luckily, this was the lift's last day at work before getting replaced. This customer came in saying that whenever they step on the gas, they get a strange thudding sound and the steering wheel wiggles. This Nissan Altima came in because it had a bit of a leak after the customer had hit a rock on the road and tried fixing the damage by himself. And this mechanic just wanted to switch this Chrysler's dashboard. A fine example of the mutual love felt between car engineers and mechanics. And this customer complained about a nasty smell in the driver's cab and wanted the mechanic to change the cabin air filter and also have a proper look and make sure nothing had gotten stuck in the air vents. The owner of this Chevy Silverado came in with a pretty blown transmission after a friend of theirs had done some work on their transmission cooler lines 3 days before. This mechanic was going to lift this truck up when he discovered something a bit strange. The owner of this car was out driving with his wife when they suddenly hit what looked like a decorative metal duck that had fallen out of a pickup truck in front of them on the highway. Customer states starting issues. And this bus driver apparently wanted to drive the tires to their very last mile. Customer came in saying that their buddy had trimmed their car about a month ago, but now it had started to run real rough during idle and had troubles firing up. The owner of this Chevy Cruze came in complaining about a burning smell and the car feeling sluggish after they recently replaced a valve cover gasket in a pretty interesting way together with their father-in-law. This customer came in saying that they have to pump their tires multiple times a week and wanted it looked at. This GMC Sierra came in with a starting issue and glitchy infotainment system. The mechanic discovered that water had gotten into the cab and soaked a couple wiring harnesses on the floor. When asked about the mysterious holes in the truck's body, the customer just went, "I ain't seen nothing and I ain't heard nothing, okay?" This customer's Ford F-150 came in because the air condition wasn't blowing cold anymore. Turned out that the compressor was totally seized, which had also caused the AC belts to snap. But after installing a new compressor and some belts, the AC worked fine again. The owner of this GMC Sierra rolled in because he had a clunking sound when turning after he had done some suspension work on it, all by himself. Very cozy. The owner of this car had some transmission work done at a different shop, but has had troubles getting it into gear ever since. The owner of this car said they had a slight thumping sound when going over bumps. Customer states, car feels jerky, but only when braking. Please advise. This car came in for an oil change, but the mechanics refused because the car was occupied. This car came in on a tow truck after the customer said it had started to feel really sluggish one day, and then the next day, it just wouldn't start. This Chevy Equinox rolled in like this because the oil light and engine light was on after the customer hit a piece of a broken concrete statue that had fallen out of a trailer on the highway. That's one very unhappy wheel bearing if I've ever seen one. This Cadillac SRX came in with some starting issues after the customer's brother had tried installing a new battery for them. This Mazda rolled in for an alignment when the mechanics discovered it needed a whole lot more than just that. And this pickup truck owner had installed some new extra lights, all by himself. And this customer desperately wanted their interior to be tan instead of black, so they had taken things into their own hands. And this customer came in saying that their car floods anytime it rains, even just a little bit. A little cleaning of the drains and the issue was fixed. This car came in because of a clunking sound after the owner's wife had hit a curb going 40 miles an hour. The owner of this car came in saying that he thinks his car has started burning oil because he's been getting a strong oil smell when driving ever since he topped up the oil at a local gas station. And this customer had let their buddy do some brake work on their car for a pack of beer, but had to come in a week later because the car had a loud clunk when braking and was really hard to stop. And this Ford Escape rolled in because it was missing a few parts. The owner of this car rolled in saying, "I just replaced the brake pads last month at another shop, so how can I still have squeaky brakes?" The owner of this Sierra pickup came in saying, "I've been getting this occasional clunking sound coming from the back for a couple months now. Could you check it out?" This customer's Dodge Ram 1500 came in because it had quite the oil leak and knock after they had let their friend install a new exhaust manifold gasket for them the weekend prior. And this mechanic just wanted to share a tip on how to quickly get weather strippings out from behind the trim panels without having to use your finger. Just take a drill with a 7mm on it and let it rip. This customer wanted to top off their washer fluid, but had somehow mixed up the oil cap and washer fluid cap and ended up topping their engine off with washer fluid instead. This car came in because the customer complained about a loud noise when going into third gear, and this is what the mechanics found. This customer came in with their Honda Civic because of poor braking power after their grandson had installed new calipers on it in a pretty creative way. And this customer came in with their car looking like this after they said they heard a loud pop when driving on the freeway. The owner of this car had done their own oil change, but had to come in because of an oil leak after they had tightened the drain plug so hard that it caused the oil pan to crack. This customer's car rolled in because it idled really badly, and this is what the mechanic found. This car came in for an oil change, but when the mechanic saw the interior, they were the ones to decline all repairs. And this customer came in right on time to have their timing belt replaced. And this customer said that they have started getting a funky smell in the cab, and anytime they go on longer trips, they get a runny nose and their eyes start itching. This customer rolled in after they had installed a new sport exhaust system on their truck and wanted the mechanic to have a look and make sure it all looked good. This car came in to get a new head gasket, and this is how the old one looked like. This guy had used quite a decent amount of stop leak to try and save a few bucks on replacing the cooler, but it wasn't super successful. This truck came in with a noisy transmission after the owner said he hit some tumbleweed while on his way home from work. Customer came in saying that they brushed against some stones while driving on an unmarked road, and ever since the car has been louder than normal. This customer came in with some starting issues, saying that he does all regular maintenance by himself. The owner of this vehicle came in saying, "Steering has felt really heavy lately, and sometimes the cab smells like burnt dog poop. Please advise." Turns out that the customer had hit a wig on the road that had gotten stuck behind the wheel. And hopefully this customer has some good quality car insurance. And this truck came in after the wheel almost fell off while the customer was driving to work. Customer states, "Car runs poorly and runs out of gas even though the gas tank is full. Please advise." The mechanics discovered that the problem was caused by candy that somebody had dropped into the customer's fuel tank. Customer states, "Wife borrowed the car and said she hit some road debris on the freeway." This car rolled in because the customer complained about a clunking sound after they had recently done some work at a different shop. This customer came in for an alignment after they said that the car wobbles a bit at higher speeds. This customer's Toyota Tundra came in for its first oil change in 75,000 miles, and when asked why they didn't come in sooner, the customer just replied, "Because it's a Tundra, I didn't think they needed oil changes." The owner of this car hit a piece of wood on the highway and just about made it into the shop before the wheel fell off. This Lambo owner came in because of a starting issue after they had tried to install a new sound system in it that they apparently got off Team U. This Mercedes turbo diesel came in because the owner said that he had started getting a burnt smell when driving longer distances, and this is what the mechanic found once he had the car on the lift. Turned out to be some pretty worn out fuel injector washers. This car came in full of knock-knock jokes, and the customer said that her uncle does her oil changes for her for cheap every year. This Nissan Sentra came in because it had started to run uneven at idle and the engine light was on. Turns out that the customer had installed a new light bar and done the wiring work, all by himself. This fairly new truck came in for a wheel alignment when the mechanic discovered this. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching, and until next time.